Just because I forgot to do the laundry for my wife this morning, I got kicked out of the house early. Fine then, today I'm going to build my own survival shelter out here. No soft bed, no air conditioner, just my 2 hands and whatever materials I can find around me. Will I be able to survive the night? John starts by clearing the building site on the slope. He clears away the leaves and grass to mark out the footprint of the project. The open patch of ground slowly appears, and the shelter begins to take shape. The first shovel strikes open up the main pit. John digs deeper at the front to make room for the entrance to the shelter. The edges of the pit are shaped to make them straighter and cleaner. He keeps removing soil from the center, turning the pit into an actual living space. The inner walls are shaped very carefully because this defines the entire form of the house. The first upright post appears at the front. John adds more posts and locks in the height of the main frame. The first stones are placed down to form the base of the wall. The biggest stones always go at the bottom first, the right way to build solid from the ground up. He adds a barrier layer behind the wall to keep the soil from falling inside. The stone wall begins rising on both sides of the front facade. John keeps packing smaller stones in, locking the gaps in the base. The doorway in the middle is left at the right size, so entering later will not require too much crouching. The front of the shelter now has a much clearer shape. He moves on to clearing the area in front, preparing for the beam above. Long logs begin to be brought over beside the pit. John trims the wood carefully because the whole roof will rest on it later. He keeps shaping the ends of the logs so the support points will fit more tightly. Meanwhile, the stone wall is still being reinforced for extra strength. Smoke begins to appear near the build, showing that there is already a test fire inside. John secures the upper part of the front wall before moving on to the roof. Large horizontal beams are lifted into place. The front frame can now carry the triangular section above it. He clears away loose stones underfoot to keep the work area cleaner. The wooden front frame now stands solid and already looks very convincing. John begins placing smaller wooden slats along both sides inside the shelter. These slats are laid horizontally, forming rustic wooden wall sections inside. From the front, the shelter already looks far less like a construction site. Fog rolls in while John continues working on the wood. He returns to stack low stones in front of the house, preparing the step and entrance area. Inside, the wall sections begin to be plastered over. John works with very even strokes, closing the gaps and softening the raw look. He keeps plastering upward from the base, leaving no section unfinished. Fresh plaster mix keeps being brought in, showing how heavy this interior finishing stage is. The inside walls grow smoother and cleaner. John touches up the hidden corners, so cold drafts will not sneak in later. He heads outside again to bring in more material for the next coat. The inside of the shelter already feels warmer and more enclosed. John keeps working on the final interior sections near the doorway. The ground in front of the entrance is shaped again to make walking easier. He continues plastering the side wall, keeping the whole interior consistent. Looking closely, you can see John works slowly, but almost never wastes a step. The outer stone wall at the front also gets more finishing touches. The edge around the doorway starts looking cleaner, preparing for the roof stage. John locks in the joints where the wood and stone meet. At this point, the front frame is already very stable. From here on, most of the heavy work on the main structure is nearly done. Smoke rises more clearly now, and a small fire can be seen inside. John takes a short break and prepares something hot to eat or drink. This moment shows that the shelter is no longer just a build site, but already usable. He makes a drink right in front of the entrance, the perfect kind of reward after the first milestone. The firelight from the stove niche makes the small space feel instantly warmer. Then the snow starts falling, and the shelter enters its first real winter test. From a distance, the build stands out beautifully against the white background. John keeps adjusting the doorway and the front edge while snow falls around him. He clears away the snow in front of the entrance, so the door will not get blocked. The front frame holds up very well, proving that his early work was done solidly. John brings over and places a few more stones at the threshold area. The ground in front of the door keeps being shaped even in heavy snow. He scrapes and clears the walkway, making sure the shelter looks good and still stays practical. John then returns to refine the front step, making the entrance cleaner and easier to use. After that, he begins splitting larger logs, preparing more material for the next finishing stage. The new wood pieces are shaped quite evenly, which suggests they will soon be added to the structure somehow. John keeps working right in the snow, the kind of pace where weather becomes just background. A dog begins appearing near the build, making the whole scene feel less harsh and lonely. A stack of firewood or materials is gathered beside the house, ready for easier use in the cold. John keeps working on the front yard, cleaning and refining one small detail after another. More wooden pieces are brought out, and it looks like he is preparing another exterior feature. From this angle, the front looks much neater and even starts to show decorative touches. John works close to the door and front area, the part that will define the final impression when entering. The dog appears again at the entrance, while the shelter increasingly looks like a real home. The front now clearly has a main door and windows, and the roughness of the early stage is gone. John moves out to the open yard, preparing for the next beautifying stage. The wide snowy view is striking. The small house now truly stands out in the forest. He opens up and clears the space in front, giving the build a little room to breathe. John works on several long pieces of wood outside, seemingly preparing for a natural roof covering. The front is now clearly finished, with the windows looking especially good on camera. He begins bringing greenery and natural material up onto the roof, so the house blends better into the hillside. Long branches and soil covering are added little by little, turning the roof into part of the landscape. John keeps covering the roof, locking in the outer layer in a way that is both waterproof and natural looking. The green roof begins to show clearly, and the shelter looks like it grows straight out of the hill. He walks around checking the whole structure, while snow continues falling heavily. From a distance, the house now looks complete and incredibly cozy. John keeps touching up the roof with greenery and cover, making sure no section feels too bare. The front door gets its final adjustments, balancing the facade with the two windows. He brings more material over beside the house, getting ready to finish the landscape in front. Fresh green layers are spread over the front of the roof and yard. John spreads each section evenly, so the greenery follows the roof's curve naturally. The house now has exactly what it needed, a look that feels both hidden and eye-catching in the woods. He keeps sweeping and cleaning around the door and walkway, locking in the final details of the facade. Inside, John begins arranging and refining the living space. He hangs items and adjusts the woodwork inside, making the interior feel less temporary. The fire comes alive again inside, and the little shelter finally feels like it has a soul. The dog appears right at the doorway while John checks the stove and floor inside. He goes back outside to clear more snow and slush, keeping the entrance dry. The front step gets adjusted again, the classic sign that the builder still is not ready to stop. Inside, more clay or earthen items appear, giving the space extra depth and character. John organizes everything around the door and stove, so both the inside and outside stay tidy. He pushes a load of material out to the front, continuing to improve the path and threshold. The entrance is cleaned up even more, so stepping outside no longer means landing in dirty snow. John checks the inside once more, almost like giving himself a final inspection. The finished front under a light layer of snow looks warm and full of character. He begins splitting more firewood, getting ready for actual living, not just building. A few smaller wooden frames are assembled, possibly for steps, supports, or outdoor platforms. John stays out in the snow finishing them, the kind of builder who does not stop until it is done. The area in front of the house is opened up further, creating a clearer outdoor living space. At this point, the whole build looks amazing. A curved green roof, centered door, and balanced windows. John steps out front, checking the facade he has just finished. Then he goes back down to shape the final edge lines in the yard. A short section of path made of stone or compacted earth is refined to make the front look more complete. John starts setting a few small wooden stakes beside the house, possibly for decoration or a low border fence. The stakes go up in a clean line, adding more depth to the area in front. He heads to a patch of low vegetation nearby to gather more decorative material. The scene is very calm now. The little house sits naturally in the hillside. John begins lighting an outdoor fire and preparing dinner. The dog sits beside the fire while John casually works on the meal. The front door is closed, a sign that the house is now truly ready to live in. Inside, the glow of fire and light makes the small space feel much warmer. Outside, the fire burns steadily in the night, closing out a very satisfying day of building. John sits down to enjoy the result of all his work, inside a shelter that is both beautiful and practical. From a hole in the hillside, he has turned this place into a warm and truly dreamy semi-underground home.